Welcome to Everyday Entrepreneurs Everywhere with your host, Chris Parker.
And welcome back to Everyday Entrepreneurs Everywhere. This is Chris Parker, and I am with Kevin Allen, who is actually weathering out the COVID storm in Barbados. And I'm sure we'll talk about that and why he's in Barbados and how that is affecting him. He says it's very dark and stormy down there at the moment. Kevin is the Chief Community Officer with OpenExO, the global community of exponential thinkers and doers, which I think is over 6,000 strong. And I am proudly one of the ambassadors in the Netherlands. So welcome, Kevin. Can you share with us, what is it that you do and why do you do what you do?
Thank you, Chris. It's great to be here. Yes, I am in Barbados. And we actually have just hit 7,000. It's insane how the community is growing. So what do I do? Well, within the OpenExO community, my role really is grow and engage the community, which is something that I've been doing now. I can't believe it's almost 2 years, and whilst that's sort of the official role, I also do many other things because when you're working in an organization that's fairly small, you often have to wear many hats. And when you're the type of person who likes to understand the nitty-gritty of certain things, you learn about how to do a little bit of coding and how to edit videos and how to work the CRM system. So I do quite a few things behind the scenes for OpenExO, but the main role is really about how do we engage this community of amazing people that we're building around the world. It was much easier when we were living in non-COVID times, and I could go and visit people, help them with the wake sessions, go meet with clients. And a really great example of that is in December last year, I went to Manila in the Philippines. We have an ambassador there. His name is Francis Horn, and he's extremely excited about EXO. And he said, "Okay, cool. Let's meet some people." And we went around. We ran a number of awake sessions in different businesses, and at a business school, as well as for a training institution. And I then went back in January, and we did some more. And when I went there the first time, there were 6 people in the OpenExO community in the Philippines. We now have over 300, and 30 who are certified. There's a training institution in the Philippines who is certifying on behalf, is training on behalf of OpenExO. So that was really amazing, and that was really cool to be able to actually do that sort of in the flesh. Now with it being virtual, it does bring a whole lot of other elements that are different. It has helped people realize that they can do things virtually. But so that's essentially the role.
Well, and that's what you're doing. And I'm curious, Kevin, you as a human, and maybe the question is, what is your MTP, to bring up that acronym? Why are you, because you are really busy doing, all over the place. You're extremely busy, extremely motivated. What drives you to build this EXO community around the world?
Perfect. So my MTP is actually unlocking positive human potential, and that MTP came about through working over the years. From if we actually go back into my history, I used to be a pharmacist. Went to university, studied pharmacy, worked for about 2 weeks in a retail pharmacy, and realized there's no way in hell I'm doing this for the rest of my life. And found my way into the pharmaceutical industry. as a pharmacist, and then worked my way up to become the operations manager of a factory, a generics manufacturer back in South Africa. And I then I've always been big into personal development and trying to figure out like what I should be doing. I would guess maybe say entrepreneurial, but my family's completely not entrepreneurial. So when I was selling stuff and doing all of that, it was very different from what my family did. So went the traditional route, working in a big company. And after doing my my master's, I was like, there's no way I just want to be a pharmacist, and I realized that I could pretty much do anything. So rather take a risk when you're young, you're still in your late 20s, take a risk. And so that's where I quit my job and went and worked for a startup. And that startup was a real estate startup in the crowdfunding space, crowdfunding real estate based. It was a bunch of South Africans, but the company was global, had people all over the world. And exponential organizations was like required reading, like the first day you arrived. And so that was, it was just after it was published, it was 2015. And after I read the book, I was like, oh man, like this model is amazing. And my role within that company was very much, I guess, like my role now. I did a lot of things. Worked closely with the CEO and ended up mostly fundraising for the company, to actually build out the tech and everything, and we essentially crowdfunded ourselves. So we did it offline, but it was essentially crowdfunding, and it was really interesting. And we raised a fair deal of money, just over $10 million, in fact. And so while I was doing that, I just after my master's, there was sorry about that background noise. There was two assessments that I did that was really about understanding yourself, and finding your purpose and whatnot, and that's where I've sort of developed this unlocking positive human potential, and so essentially being able to meet with people all around the world, and to see amazing people, work with amazing people, and essentially help people to understand exponential, because I think that by understanding this, they can really unlock their potential. This is where we are. So it's been amazing so far. I do see a lot of potential, beyond this role, and it is something that I think I'm close to trying to see some sort of transition without negatively affecting the community. But I definitely would like to take on a role where I'm working more closely with people, helping them to develop their MTPs and et cetera. So it's been an interesting road so far.
Life is an interesting road, that's for sure. And I think there must be a story behind your MTP, unlocking positive human potential. Where did the positive come from? Because I think unlocking human potential would probably have been enough, but somehow you I don't know, was there a story there that really said, hey, I'm going to put this positive in there?
So the main reason that the positive is in there is I have through business been able to meet some people who've done really well in life, but are perhaps not the nicest people. And they've got amazing potential, yet they're not using that potential in a positive way. And so it was originally just unlocking human potential, and I thought about it a lot, and I thought, well, well, what if people use their potential in a negative way? So so that's why the positive is stuck in there.
Yeah, I think for me, I have a bit of a similar story, because early in my career, I was determined to help people succeed. And then what I realized after suffering was I can't control the success of others. I can't, I can influence it. And that's where my own MTP, massive transformative purposes, let's create experiences that enable growth. And I think as long as we're growing, and it's really up to the person or the organization to determine how, that doesn't need to be financial growth. That can be personal growth or personal development. Can you, for the people who aren't sort of indoctrinated yet, and if people would like to learn more, I would urge you to go to openexo.com. And there's a foundations course that you can watch and take for free. And if you want to be certified, there's a small fee for that. And there's consulting certifications, and there's a whole track of learning and development. But can you just, in a nutshell, sum up what EXO and MTP mean?
Absolutely. So, well, first of all, I mean, an MTP stands for massive transformative purpose, and the whole idea around this all stems from Salim Ismail. So Salim, when he was at Singularity University, and was looking at all these new organizations, unicorns, etc., that were able to create businesses that just completely outperformed traditional players. And when they looked at that and said, okay, well, how are they doing that? What are they doing? They took it was close to 3 years of research, looking into the organizations, and were able to then map 10 attributes, 11 attributes, the MTP being the one, and then 5 attributes that look internally and 5 that look externally. Now, of course, they found some other attributes, but those didn't sort of stand out as really significant in a number of the businesses. And that essentially is what we call the EXO model, or some people say the EXO framework. But really, it's just a way to look at different attributes an organization can have that can help it to leverage what's available to us in the 21st century. And so the one thing that they found for sure, though, was that every single one of them had a purpose that was massive in what it was trying to achieve. Many people sort of start a business and say, well, I just want to make a whole lot of money, right? But those businesses don't tend to last very long. They're not, who wants to be an employee in that business if the boss is just like, well, I want to make the most money for myself and that's it. There's nothing wrong with making money. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I actually think that if you can make a massive impact and make a lot of money, I mean, that's amazing, right? And really what you'd want to achieve. So they found that every single one of these organizations had a massive transformative purpose. So it's really important to say, how do we develop that?
I've got a question. I'm going to come in with this good bad judgment thing again, because massive transformative purpose does not necessarily mean benevolent or even positive. I think we in the community assume so. And I don't know of any examples when, the massive evil transformative purpose has really worked for anyone. But I think I think one of the binding things of the community is really trying to just make the world a better place. And I think that's what really is. And then how, and what is the exact impact on that? So many questions in so little time. Let me just go for it. In the EXO canvas, and again, people can look at the book Exponential Organizations and Exponential Transformations. I'll put the links in the show notes, so you can find it on Amazon and anywhere. Two of the attributes are community and engagement, and I guess that's your wheelhouse. That's your domain in OpenExO. And so, a question is, for all of these, thousands of leaders and companies around the world who are looking for inspiration through the EXO model or framework, what, I guess, pieces of advice can you give them when they're thinking of building out, massive community and creating deep engagement?
Yeah.
What have you learned, I guess, is the question.
So, no, absolutely. So, I mean, first of all, it's that in order to build a community, you have to have a massive transformative purpose, right? If you're going to try build a community around something that doesn't inspire people, it's going to be extremely hard to build a community. So for me, it's having that in place first up. Like without that, you can't even start really. Next is that you need to really understand why you want to build a community. So you've got many people who might see the model and say, okay, I need to build a community, so I'm just going to do it. But the question you need to ask is, why do you want to build a community? What is the community going to do for the organization? And what is the organization going to do for the community, right? And so that needs to be completely aligned. Otherwise you're going nowhere. So you've got, if you look at, for example, something like Linux, right? They have a massive community, really strong, and so it's all an open source community. And the community, the point of the community is to actually develop and build the software, and then there's also a community that are supporting the software, and what they get out of it is they get to actually get work at the end of the day, and of course what Linux gets out of it is they constantly updating and they're able to maintain the software. So you need to figure out, well, what is it that we want our community to do? And the thing is your community can do so many things, right? If you think about a company like Tesla, which does no marketing because they essentially rely on their community to drive a lot of their marketing. And of course they have a great purpose and they have a great product as well. Although some people say it's not the best product. If you're a BMW engineer, you will say they have a terrible product. But they have been able to build this community that is on social media, sharing about their product, saying you need to get it, etc. So you need to be able to determine what is it you actually need a community for. And you may say, okay, well, I'm a restaurant, or I'm a small chain of restaurants in the city. We have 3. Do we need a community? What would it be? And so some people might just say, well, no, we don't, so we won't go there. But actually, if you can think about what is the purpose of your restaurant? Maybe the purpose of your restaurant is actually you're trying to foster awareness of climate change through your restaurant, and perhaps then you could actually build a community based off of that, and you have extremely sustainable food, and so it takes a bit of creative thinking when it comes to a community. The next thing is to realize that the way community works is a bit of a 99-1 sort of rule. 1% of people are going to be extremely active. They are going to always be there. They are going to be doing a lot of things. They're the champions. They're the people who are going to be ambassadors, set up meetings, do these sorts of things. 9% of people are going to be there. They're going to interact, but they'll most likely always be there. But they when asked like to put your hand up, they might not put their hand up. And then 90% of the people are watching.
Yeah.
And attend every now and then, and you can't be despondent by that. That's one thing that's really hard when it comes to building community. It's very easy to get frustrated by the fact that, well, why is everybody not doing 100%? And so I would highly recommend. There's a book called People Powered, It's by a guy called John O'Bacon.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the head of community at Ubuntu. He's been the head of community at XPRIZE. He's been the head of community at there's one other place which the name has eluded me right now. But his book is really great in terms of just giving his experience over running communities, looking at like how to reward, what are the on-ramps, and it's not a silver bullet. Like there is no silver bullet, because every community has a different nuance. But you need to be thinking, how can we leverage community?
Yeah.
In order to benefit. Yeah.
That 1-9-90 rule that you mentioned, we experienced that also internally when I was a group CIO of financial services. I think we had like 4,000 staff around the world, over 30 countries, and we were doing, enterprise social back in the day. And we had some wise people who probably read similar book that came up with the 1-9-90. And I think that don't get depressed or despondent if you don't have wild activities. And another thing that we learned was, because it was a mobility fleet company and there were a bunch of car heads, and there was a Harley Davidson group spawned organically in the platform in this world. And we made sure to keep management from killing that kind of stuff, because we said if people are talking about what they're passionate about, then they're connecting, and this thing is about connecting. And so please, please don't stop the Harley group. In fact, promote it, because that's going to get people, actually engaged. So, so the OpenExO community around the world, now 7,000 and growing. So it's attracting people. What is the purpose of that, and who's it for? So basically, to answer, asking your questions back to you. So like what is the meaning of that, and who would be really attracted to join and participate and engage?
Perfect. So so ultimately, the community is for people who believe that we have an abundant future. We live in a world where we can have a future that's much brighter than our past. So it really is a place, for engagement and inspiring as well as collaboration. And so but it's not only a place for people who are consulting necessarily with businesses only. It's also a place for people who are in the innovation space and are potentially working within a large company, or within a consulting company, or and hopefully we're going to see more people, for example, that are in government, who can get inspired by what's possible with the EXO model, and really it's about generating more mainstream adoption of the EXO model, because at the end of the day, we do believe that by embracing the EXO model, we can actually transform the world. But it is going to take millions of people actually at the end of the day. I mean, we 7,000, which is awesome, but actually, if you think about it, it's really going to take millions of people realizing that we can actually leverage leverage these attributes, and therefore allow you to then leverage certain technologies because you have this mindset.
And just a little selfish plug here. If people want to hear more from people in the community, ebullient.com/podcast/OpenExO. There's a growing list of fascinating people, highly intelligent, driven people that I've had the pleasure of having conversations with on the podcast, and I've grouped them all under ebullient.com/podcast/OpenExO. So go check that out. Is there anyone who is there anyone who wouldn't be a fit for the community?
Well, I mean, people who are not a fit for the community are people who are looking for is essentially people who are looking to take only and in no way add value. So we have had people who we have uh, had conversations with and actually have removed from the community. Many people might not know that.
I did not know that.
But it was people who generally have came along to say, well, what can I get out of this, and weren't adding value to to any conversations, and essentially are pretty much taking. There was one incident, someone's taking what comes out of a conversation and actually looking to run with ideas that are not necessarily their own, and not in a collaborative way, but in a very divisive way. So anyone who is like that, and unfortunately there are folks in the world like that. I wish we lived in a utopian world of unicorns where everybody was kind and collaborative but that isn't the case, and not saying that that we can't have people who are like quite tough and driven and want to get a certain outcome. That's perfectly good, but so I would say that's definitely not a fit. But because we're sort of believing more and more as our community members run initiatives in different industries, from non-profits to government departments to for-profit companies, both small and large, we're realizing that more and more that the sort of the EXO model, the attributes, can be implemented in different varying degrees in all those organizations. Now, it is difficult because you don't want to be like everything and nothing sort of situation, right? Where you're like, oh, everyone's our customer, and that means no one's your customer type of situation. You don't want that. But the thing is it really is. I mean, it's just amazing that, especially people who've gone through the consultant certification, and in the consulting certification, you have a client, right? So you work with a client, and the clients are just so varied. Like people working with the UN, there's been people who've had like a UN department as their client, through to someone who's had a pastry shop as their client, someone had a camera shop as their client. Someone had an incubator, like a startup incubator as their client. And everyone got value, right? So it's quite exciting.
Yeah, I'm thinking if I had to, having been involved for quite some time, I met Salim back in 2011 at Singularity, and have been continuing on this journey about down different forks and learning and exploring together with ever growing group, which has been amazing. I think if you're a leader or a change maker in an organization that is maybe tired or worried about the same context, enabling them to still have the impact they want, then I think the OpenExO and the EXO model would be great. Or if you're a consultant, advisor, coach, mentor, and want to have these, this in your toolbox and this community to draw upon and to give back to, I think for me those are two great areas. Now, there are some pretty audacious statements and goals stated recently that the decade coming up is the decade of the EXO. And that is, massive, transformative, so globally, this is the decade of the EXO. And there's an EXO live event coming up on the 17th of December. So if you're listening or watching this after that, very sorry, but you can always go to exoworld.live for upcoming events, and also openexo.com. So what is the decade of the EXO, and what can people experience on the 17th of December in 2020?
Perfect. So it actually all started. At the end of 2019, we were speaking and we were like, this decade ahead is going to make a massive difference. And so we said 2020, well, let's call 2020 the year of the EXO. And damn it, with COVID, everyone understands exponential, but it has been fairly tough.
Wait. You called 2020 the year of the EXO,
the year of the EXO,
and COVID happened. And so
COVID happened.
You dared to say that this going to be the decade of the EXO. What have you done? Like, I blame you.
Okay, come on. Don't say such things. So ultimately, we are being fairly bold in saying that every organization will need to undergo a transformation to understand, towards being more exponential, towards leveraging the attributes of the model. If you're running an organization and you do not allow any autonomy, I do not see by 2030 that your organization is like hierarchical and top down is going to be all okay. If you are not leveraging algorithms by 2030, I do not see how you exist. I really don't. When there are organizations that are able to take data, use an algorithm, and provide value, how do you exist? So we are being bold in saying that every organization will be leveraging EXO attributes. Whether they'll all be EXOs, I'm not too sure. Whether the ones that aren't EXOs will still exist, also not too sure. And so ultimately, we want to on the 17th just speak to that, to share the vision into the future, to share some celebration. I know this year's been tough, but there are things to celebrate. Salim will also be sharing some information and data around the analysis from the EXQ. So when the book was released in 2015, 2014, they ran an exponential quotient survey on the Fortune 100. And then 2 years ago, we did another analysis, and we found that those that were in the top 10, very highly flexible, EXO companies, close to EXO companies, have outperformed those at the bottom financially. There are other metrics to measure an organization, but financially is unfortunately and unfortunately something that many people look at. And Salim's currently looking at those numbers to share those as well. And we expect that preliminary numbers look pretty amazing in terms of the financial side of things. Those companies in the top 10, just their outperformance of the bottom 10 is insane. And so there'll be a bit of that. And then regionally, we have, of course, community members in 130 countries. And regionally, people are going to come together and actually look at what should our regional MTP be? What does the decade ahead look in our region? And we want our regional communities to share that, so that ultimately, as the global community, we can then look at how we can make that happen in the decade to come. And so that's really exciting for me. There's sessions that are going to be run, of course, in the Netherlands. Chris is going to be doing that. But there's Malaysia, there's Vietnam, there's the US, many regions of Europe, in Africa as well, in Australia, New Zealand. Hopefully we can get a big chunk of the whole world, sharing that, so that as we move into 2021, we can actually work with the community to take action to further drive that transforming the world for a better future.
Outstanding. And really looking forward to the 17th, where Frank Smeets and myself will be facilitating that. Netherlands, maybe Benelux. We have to have that conversation still to see, okay, who's involved in that section. and really, trying to craft very collaboratively what is an MTP for the region for the decade of the EXO. So that is at 1:00 CET on the 17th of December. And you can sign up for that at exoworld.live/DEXO, DEXO/. And I'll have that link in the show notes as well. So I hope to see you there. And we're still trying to figure out how to do it, but we'll try to make it big and collaborative, and also find out how to stay in touch with people in the region and get exponential things going on, and also learning and supporting each other along the way. So outstanding. Kevin, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. We're going to hustle and get this out there, and hopefully get some other regional EXO people on the podcast before the 17th, and see if we can, create a little micro movement here in the Benelux region, as part of the greater community. So Kevin, thank you so much.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris. It's great chatting to you. As you said, we could talk forever, but I guess people might not want to listen forever. So, but yeah, really great chatting to you. Thanks so much.
Learn more at ebullient.com/podcast.